good night, everyone. Well, good afternoon still. This is Pixel Crazy. Well, today's stream, what we'll start with. I'm gonna try to implement like some footnote or some structure to the stream from now on. So the first few minutes will be no. I'm not going to hi, Smithy. So basically, the first few minutes will be discussing things like where we left off last stream, some news that might have happened over the period from last stream to this stream. Also, we might discussing things and chatting for a bit. This is to give time so more people can join when we actually start building. So thanks for joining earlier, Smithy. Appreciate it. So first, we're going to continue building the Joker mech. I did get some pieces, a little bag of pieces from a hidden stash that I had at home. It's not the most fancy way to transport pieces, but hey, I had pieces at my desk at home, and I needed to bring them here. Hi, Cobalt, good morning. So yes, I got some pieces I know I needed. Last stream I didn't have, like this, the 1x1 hinge. So yes, this stream I did get some pieces that we needed to continue building. And also, I started discussing with, well, not discussing, thinking about which projects I'm going to be working next. And I'm sure that after this build, and after we're done and it's all pretty, I'm going to be building a Warframe. I think it's. I'm going to build another deluxe that I had my eyes on. I think it was Hydroid Deluxe. So that will be my next build. And on another news, I dusted off my old light box. So I have that to work on. And I posted yesterday a new picture that I took from this build, from the night build. Let's do forward right now. Okay. So I'm gonna be trying to post more pictures on my social medias regularly, but with I want to try to add poses and try to add different lights and stuff. So I'm still going to, when it's a new mech, I'll still try to do the front and side photos so that everyone can try to see how it's built. But after that, I'll try to take 1 or 2 days after that, I'll post a photo with a pose or something that looks interesting. So that's the idea going forward. That's the plan, right? Okay, so after that, I have 2 things I want to try. And I was inspired by you guys actually, by joining and being in the stream. So I want to have better equipment and more pieces to work on. So I'll try to make more instructions. And that's one of the reasons why I dusted off the light box, because the light box that I have has a hole at the top, where I can put the camera and I can just try to do a set of photos for the instructions. So I'll be building more instructions from now on. And I think the first one I'll start with is a build that actually the creator of that build requested and see if it's possible for me to send him the instructions. So I'll be building or making instructions for the shark knife mech. That will be done this month. I cannot promise when exactly, but I decided to take more time for me to do things related to Lego. So I'll be building instructions that I will be selling as cheap as possible, I promise. But the intention of this is to give you something, or give the people that want instructions, I'll give them the means of how to do that, and with that money will its only purpose will be getting better equipment and more pieces. So that's the only that's what I want to do. I don't want to ask for money without giving anything in return. So I'll be starting to work more on that. And the other thing that I thought is I'll probably put a model or two in sale, so that I can perhaps get again either more pieces or equipment. I'll start thinking about what can I do to get better, right? And I think I'll post a photo of my setup as soon as, well, one of these days. I'll put the setup, how I have it, the 3 lights that I'm using, the cameras and everything, and I'll show you what I'm working on, right? So yeah, thanks. I think that was a bit of time so we can start working on the build, right? Okay, so let's go. And let me start by doing this. I forgot to do this last week. I said I was going to make this a bit bigger. By the way, I chose Chrono Cross music today. I know most people prefer Chrono Trigger over Chrono Cross. I still love Chrono Trigger, but perhaps because it was I played Chrono Cross before Chrono Trigger, I liked it more. That's just me. I know it's an unpopular opinion. I've discussed this with friends. Yes, it's not the most popular opinion, but hey, each to his own, right? So, okay, with that out of the way, let's continue with the build. So this is where we left off last week, right? Basically, we built the main shape or the main core. We just have to replicate the arm and then perhaps change the color of a few pieces, right? And these are some of the pieces that I collected, or yes, and honestly, as weird as it sounds, I kind of like Chrono Cross a bit more. It's not the graphic, because I love pixel art, so the graphics were not a deciding choice for me, and the concept of time traveling and having several ways of playing the game depending on the choices you make, Chrono Trigger is still a great game. A game that, as far as I know, is trapped under tons of copyright issues, which is one of the reasons why you don't see many collaborations, or you don't see it being used more currently. So that's one of the reasons what I just gave up about perhaps seeing a remake of Chrono Trigger. If that happens, that would be an absolute surprise. I don't expect to see it ever, but if it happens, I mean, it will be a big deal. But I don't see that happening. Anyway, getting back to this, okay? So these are some of the pieces that I got from my bag, from my home, and you can see many of them are black and white, and some gray and perhaps golden. These are some of the pieces I'm going to use. I know for sure I might end up using this, so I'm going to put a small pile. But yes, to close that, I prefer Chrono Cross more than Chrono Trigger, but that's me. And again, unpopular opinion. I've discussed this with many friends. Okay, so back to the main build. Okay, one of the things I said I was going to do is perhaps replace some color parts that I just used last time. So these blocks that had studs on just 2 sides, I found them in black, so that would be a better fit for now. And one of the few things that I started doing, it's complete. The other thing I wanted to do was continue doing the arm, right? And last time I used this brick with the pins on both different sides. So I got that in white as well. All I have to do is find the other black pin. 1 second, I have a table at the side, and for some reason it's making some noise. But yes, I'll show you the setup I'm using in a photo. I think I posted it not as a story in Instagram. Perhaps I'll do a full post. Okay, so again, we'll do this and change this here. Okay, this is one of the problems I keep facing, and I don't know if you can see it, but let me show you with this piece, okay? Perhaps you can see it better this way. This socket for the ball joint is too loose because it has a crack here. Perhaps it's too small of a detail, and the zoom is not doing it justice. But this is one of the problems with many articulation pieces. I have to replace them eventually because they start to break. And I know that's one of the most common issues with these type of pieces, but it's something that we have to work on. And if we were going to complete the shoulder, I was using this tan color in most of when using the 2x1s. So let's keep doing that here just to maintain this spec, right? And yes, so it's this one here, correct. Am I using that? Yes, okay. And I'll keep using these pieces to fill this. And I'll try to replicate as much as possible what I did on the other side with this side. And let me bring back my box of side plates. Okay. One of the things I usually do when building, I do put music on or just put the TV in the background. I like working with noise in the background. I find that to be it helps my head just focus on what I'm building more, as ironic as it sounds. Why is it? I have the table here, but I think it's making sounds constantly. I don't know why. Okay. By the way, the other thing I usually try to do when building, I have my cell phone here, but I have it running a mobile game. Perhaps you can see it. So that's another thing I like to keep. Ironically, as stressful as it sounds, doing many things at the same time is one of the most relaxing things I have. I mean, I cannot tell you why. Just I was since I was little, that has been a thing with me. I have to actually do tons of things at the same time to be. Yes. I mean, I don't know why, but having something else in the background works great. And I don't know exactly what's the answer to that. I've thought about it many times. One of the theories my wife came with this is that it helps you focus on something else, and you don't overthink your own creative process. So the idea that you have, or you start working on it, and you go through a mechanical process of doing that with your creative process off. You just build, right? And that could be, but hey, it's not as uncommon as I thought, because many of the people I've spoken about, they have a hobby where they have to be doing multiple things at the same time, and that works. Okay, so I think I've replicated the shoulder minus the back slope. I'll find that sooner, but the shoulder itself is replicated. Once you have one side built, which you can do that way, you can just start working on one side and seeing if that clicks. You can just replicate that on the other side. And many builds, especially if they are asymmetrical, you can take parts that are the same and build them as they are right now, and perhaps change them after. It all depends on if you find that useful or not. Right now, I want to try to start building the mech with similar shoulders as a base, but we'll change that as we go, because this will be probably end up way different at the top than this. How exactly? Well, basically, what will happen is this probably have hinges all over the place, so we can put the plates, and this one will just decorate to have the shape that we want. Okay, so yes, it probably will end up much different, and I'm not even sure that it will have this entire shape at the end. So this is something that we could work on as we go, correct? So next thing, let's get some clips to go here and start building the arm as we go down. So first, let me get this and put these pieces. I have some stuff. If we need them, we'll reach. Okay. So while I find the pieces, how was your weekend? Could you let me know? Also, I know this might be perhaps personal questions, but let me know in chat. What was what inspires you to build, if you build, and if you're not building, what do you find appealing about building with Lego? Because I think I said this on my first stream, but one of the things I find relaxing about using Lego as a creative process or as a building process is that I consider it kind of a puzzle while still being a way to express my ideas. I mean, I've always been creative, I've always drawn, I've always built with clay or stuff like that, but none of those things give me like the full experience that I always crave for, right? And I think one of the problems with drawing, I love drawing, by the way, but one of the problems I have with it is that the end process is something that I can see but I cannot touch. In that aspect, it's something that might sound weird, but I like having or being able to carry the end process, right? Which is why I once considered getting a 3D printer and learning how to model in 3D. But that sounds, I don't know, I don't find that fun. Or because I started seeing tutorials and stuff like that and seeing if all that investment would pay off in one way or another. But yeah, I don't think that would have paid in any particular way ever. because I have done investments my whole life regarding hobbies I like, right? For example, I remember, well, it was not that far ago, it was a few years ago, but I got a Surface Pro from Microsoft just because I like drawing. And I saw it as a way of getting a computer where I could use to draw while I was in bed, and perhaps just speaking with someone else, and I didn't have to dedicate a desk entirely to it. So it basically was something I could take off and perhaps be on the couch drawing, right? And started to build more technical digital drawings, which I did. But after a while, I lost that process, or I stopped doing that. And I think the main reason I did that was because, I don't know, it was not as fun as drawing in paper for some reason. And I don't know if this happens to you, but having a work life from 9 to 5, which I did for, well, I still do, but for many years I did not have the normal 9 to 5. I basically worked from 7 to 9, 10 p.m. I work it as needed. I was one of the reasons that I needed to have a hobby, and that's why I started building again with Lego, because having a work that was so demanding as that put a stress on me that I didn't. It was so stressful. I needed a way out, a way to relax. So, yes, having this as a hobby is the thing that has worked the best from all the things that I've tried. With video games being a close tie. The only difference with video games and this is that I consider video games a relaxing experience and period. You don't get nothing out of it except for the skills of playing the game. And fun, of course. But with this, not only was I having fun, was I relaxing. I got end products like this ones that I could watch and hold, and so I got myself a present out of a hobby, so which I still had to pay and build, so it's not cheap. So it's not entirely better, but hey, my brain took it as I got something out of all that process that I could hold. So I know I'm playing with myself and tricking my brain into saying that this is more productive than playing. And in a way it is, but it's not cheaper. I've known that for a long time. Especially when starting building my collection, right? This, basically it's most of my collection. I have 4 boxes of this that are separated by pieces. You cannot see the bottom 2, but basically are the same size. And that, together with the things I have built, and I think 4 boxes that are this size, like this, filled with white pieces, gray pieces, dark gray pieces, and black pieces. I have a box for each color filled with perhaps bigger pieces that I don't use that often, and that's basically my collection. And I do have like 2 small boxes full of minifigures that I've been collecting over the years. So that's mostly my collection, but it has taken me so long to build that entire collection over the years. And one of the most common things that people ask me on social media is, where do you get the pieces, or where can I find those pieces for that build, right? The simplest answer that I can give, and I have given in the past, is build your collection over time, which is basically what I did. I just started buying sets, official sets that I knew I liked, and most of them, after they were built, I just took apart and used the pieces. There are exceptions, right? For example, these two, the Milano and the Benastar, I've kept, and I probably will keep assembled for a long time. The Overwatch sets I do have, well, the builds, not the CDs. For example, I do have Reinhardt and Diva build, as well as I forgot his name. I see it, Hammond. And Hammond build I do have. I did small modifications to them because I don't usually like keeping the things how they came back. But yes, they are with me and probably will still be with me for a long time. And I've done exceptions. For example, the Overwatch sets that bring Diva and Reinhardt, I got twice. Okay, so I got mine, and my mom gave me one for Christmas. And the one I kept was my mom's, or the one that my mom gave me. And the other one I just took apart and started using the pieces. So that's another way I've been building pieces. It has pros and cons, right? The pros, I'm sorry, if I'm just trying to replicate the same arm, so I'm trying to look for pieces that are the same on this side. And right now I'm trying to search for this pin that works as a holder for the thumb in the same colors. If I don't find it in the same color, I'll try to find two of the same color so I can replace it in both hands. So yes, going back to that, the main advantage of using set as piece source is that you end up with a bigger collection of different pieces, and perhaps pieces that you thought you were never going to use, you have them for future builds, and you'll end up with pieces that could help you create a different shape that perhaps with the pieces that you had in mind you would not get, right? And one of the biggest examples that I gave some in a question was on this build, the neck piece, right? The one that acts as these bones are two golden bananas, right? How would I ever known that I would use or end up using two golden bananas if I didn't have the piece? And I got them from a set. I don't even remember which set I got them from. So sometimes having pieces in weird colors and weird shapes just there is a good, is something good. So that goes as a positive side for just getting pieces from Lego sets, right? The downside of that is that you might end up with tons of pieces you will never use. Especially if you're building mechs, we need tons of small pieces, and bigger pieces, you'll just get stuck with tons of them, unless you start saving those pieces for bigger projects. But I once tried to do a mech carrier ship, and I didn't have enough pieces to build that. I mean, if I wanted to build a ship that could hold multiple mechs of this size, the size of the ship itself had to be tremendous, and I didn't have enough pieces to do that. I had enough pieces to make like a core, so I had a core frame that could hold two mechs. That's it, two mechs, a cockpit at the top, and I was starting to build wings and stuff like that. But I didn't have enough pieces of a same color to build the cover of the ship. So I gave that project away. It's something that I wanted to try, but it was too ambitious for me. It ended up being, for example, the base of the hangar of the ship was this size, and then it had atop this part where it was using the minifigure as tripulation for that ship. And the width, imagine having two of this side by side this way, and then the doors. It was bigger than it was a bigger project than I had pieces for. So that's something that I didn't go through, sadly. I had the plans to do that, I just didn't have the pieces or the budget to go through with it. So yes, it's one of my only regrets regarding Lego builds, that I didn't have enough pieces to build Lego carrying ship that could hold actual size mechs. I once had an idea of building a ship with a smaller skull mechs, but honestly I thought I was cheating, so I didn't go through with that. I just had the idea and never went through with it. Okay, so I think I've lost enough time trying to find another pieces of this color. I know I have them. Oh, okay, I found two blacks. I'm gonna keep that and I'm gonna keep working with that. So I have two black pieces here that will work as fingers. And with that, I have the basis of the hand. Now I just have to find the entire clips that will work for fingers, right? So yes, that's I'm just might be rambling here, but if you find this information interesting, let me know, because for me, this is usually one of the things I'm doing while building, right? I'm thinking, I'm holding ideas, I'm planning on things I'm going to build in the future, things I have built, and perhaps things I'm going to modify. So yeah, that's a small peek inside my head. But I do hope that you find this interesting, right? And this is one of the drawbacks of doing all the builds during the stream, because I have to replicate and build things, for example, like the other arm, right on the stream, and perhaps it's not the most interesting thing to do, right? Okay, so for now, we have both arms, and they are almost complete. Okay, so now the next step, I want to give to this part, to the forearms, I need to find and give them structure so I can build around them. So I'm going to need two of the 2x1 plates with the side 2x1, and that starts from the bottom, and I'm going to need two that of the same piece, but that starts from the top. So I'm going to need 2 and 2 of those pieces. If I can find them in the same color, that would be great. And again, as the drawing says, it will have one arm covered, but it still will be a functional arm, okay? The thing about it, it will be a detachable arm. And this is why I chose clips here, basically. So what it will do is, it will detach this way, and perhaps I'll try to work out a way to make this having a thruster in some sort of way. And this will be the arm carrying the sword, detached this way. So this will remain here and perhaps be covered this way, put at the back. This is why this doesn't have a back stopper, because we might end up hiding this arm here at the top when the arm is detached. So this is the basic difference between both arms. Right now, I'll just try to build as much as I can from making them look similar. But I have an idea which is the process that they'll end up having once built. So I need to find, like I said, another 2x1 that starts from the top. And I'm using gray as a base. So let's put the one that's at the top here, and the one at the bottom goes to the back. I'm using gray as a base because it's just the most generic color that you can use as to build. But once building, we might change up the colors, and depending on if I have that color available, I would like to change, for example, this arm to have white everywhere. But right now I'm just searching to make the build as similar as possible and having it like a normal shape. So this way you now have an option to build armor at both sides and at the top. This will allow us to create the build that we want. For this part, for the top, you see that the arm has like a checker pattern of colors, right? And what we have to do to build that, which usually I'll try to put a white block, either 3x2 or 4x2. It will sit at the top, and we can build around that. Let me show you how. So I have a 4x2 white block here, and if we put the 2 pins at the 2 middle holes, perhaps I can show you at the 2 middle holes, you can put that piece at the center and it will work. It will attach while still being centered, and that way we can build this checker pattern here. The main problem of using a 4x2 on this particular build is that the hand itself will stick. What you could do, and this is why perhaps I said perhaps we can keep the 4x2, is if we build upwards, we'll have the option to add the 4 checkered tiles that we see on the drawing. I think it has 5, but we can work with 4, and it will do sort of a cover of this part of the arm, and it works great. And what we can do at the front part to cover it is if we work with a 3x1, we'll work with a 3x1 single plate. We can use it as a cover here, and then we're starting to give the shape we want to the arm. The back side, you can put another plate, or you can play perhaps with a different sort of pieces that does a different function. Let me explain to you what I mean by that. So for example, if we put, let me use a 2x1 normal plate with pins at the top. If we use a 2x1, we have the option of the hand to go in even further than it would if it had a plate. If it has a plate, it gets stuck sooner. So by using a 2x1 at the back of the hand, you are giving it the option to do this further, right? To put the hand further. And as this part is usually not that visible, you can work with a small pieces, that does less covering, but it will give a bigger function. So at the end, that's one of the things you have to consider when building. If you want to cover more, perhaps what you could do, or you want to cover less, but give more functionality. Because right now, having this 3x2 here only allows the arm to go this far. But if we use a 2x1 here instead of a 3x1, the arm goes up further, way further. So it all depends. Height, that's my wife, height. So it depends on what you want to do. Would you want to cover more, or leave more for articulation, or perhaps sacrifice from one articulation to give more articulation to the other? And here's my point. Before I was connecting these two pinholes, since they were hollow, to these two pins at the back of the plate. But if we use it completely at the top too, while you will lose the ability of the hand to do this motion, to move to the top, it will cover more of this part, but you end up with a look that could be what you're looking for, and you still keep the ability to bend the arm more. Okay, and so right now I'm going to keep it in the middle because that's the look I probably want to keep. If I don't like it, or I might end up changing it after. On the drawing, it starts gold and it goes white. There are many ways we can do that. Perhaps put a white piece here at the top, right? And this is not a plate, but this is the one I have at hand. You can put a gold piece here. That way you can give the shape that we want, or the color combination that we want, on the same small space. But having these pins at the side is does wonders for that. Okay, so let's try with, we have this here, and we already have the arms and the neck. Now let's continue on somewhere that we left last week. So we have the base of the arms and we have them replicated. Let's replicate the legs now. Okay. So, like I said last time, this had a connection for a ball joint, for a small ball joint at the bottom. Let's keep it that way. And then I'm thinking this had a 4x1 plate at the back, which could work great because if we use a single inverted slope of 1x2, and if we put it here at the back of the clip, we're starting to give it a down shape that like the one of the drawing, right? And other thing I like to use a lot here, and this particular type of leg that I use a ton, is on this hole that remains here at the top, I use a 2x1 with a single pin in the middle. Why do I use that? Because it works as a stopper for this particular piece that we use to give shape, and it will not go further than this. This is the stopping point. So this will help you keep that in place and still fills that hole and also gives a better shape, in my opinion. So if we want to replicate this on the other leg, at least we're starting to give it the color and shape that it has. Last, and one of the most important things is if we change the color of that for a white one, we're starting to see the same shape that we had on the drawing, right? The main problem with this is that these connections, these connection pieces for the small ball joint, they don't come in different colors as far as I know, at least not yet. So I mean, that's a decision that I always regret, perhaps, is just seeing this color here at this piece. But usually I try to hide it as much as I can, and if I can find this ratchet piece in white, I'll try to replace it. If not, it depends much of the piece that you have, right? So let's try to replicate this leg build that we are starting here on the other side. And for that, I'm going to need a 4x1 plate, which I happen to have here. I have my trusty white box of piece of white pieces next. So let's put the white plate here, and let's put a black clip like the same as the other leg, 2x1 black clip. And the inverted tile or the inverted slope in black. I know I had another one here, 2x1 here, and the black piece, right? And the thing that I notice is on the build, the back of the leg, I usually have it in golden, the back of the knee. So I can keep using this gray piece like here and build something golden on top, or perhaps I can try building this with black, right? To continue the back of the leg and then build gold on top of that. So I have the pieces to do that. So I have either the one to continue with the gray or the two blacks to replace them. And one of the beauties of having two of something is you can try one leg with the one color and the other leg with the other color and see which one you like more, correct? So for now, let's put it black, and as we keep building, we'll see if the color with if it works better with gray or if it works better with black. Okay. And the other thing, next, let me try to build the knee. Okay. So the knee itself, I'm going to start using white. We'll probably build with color after that, but I want to try and see how the shape is going. So if we keep it as it is right now, we cannot use a 3x2 plate. Why? Because it clashes with the knee piece, or the piece that we the clip for the normal ball articulation. So I wouldn't keep that. But if we try building with a base 2x2, and then start building from there, it limits here. This is the stopping point. It doesn't go further than that on top, but it allows you to go backwards. So you have a functional knee with a stopping point, but you can use that to build upwards. Other thing you can try with that is if you have 2x2 side plates that start from the top. What you could do is, I think I have another one here. I do, in white. You'll put two, which will make the 2x2 plate function here. That limits and allows you to build or put bigger pieces at the top. And I'm going to use this as an example. As you can see, I put a 3x2 plate, and now it works perfectly. It doesn't clash with this, and you can even put something like this that you can build to give a different shape. So we started to build that, and you can build the side. The thing with this, and this is important to notice, if you did this, you do cover the side build of the knee, but it will probably be too thick once we finish building it. Let me show you that real quick. So let me put a simple 2x2 plate at the side. So if we do that, for me it looks too thick for the build that we're trying to reach. If it's a more armored mech, this works great, but this mech that we're trying to build, it's slick. So this probably won't work, correct? And this is when we start bringing color pieces. We notice that is a pink armor, so let's try to building that pink. And as I showed you last week, I have several tones of pink. Yes, it's a naked mech. It's a frame that we can use to work on. Till this part, many of your builds can look exactly or very similar from this part. You can change pieces and parts and start building from there, but if you want to build a single frame and build all your mechs from that, that's a good practice, because you don't lose time on the mechanics part of the build. You just try to build around the aesthetics. I usually don't keep two builds the same. They could be pretty similar, but they're not the same. And I think I'll show you one example, right? So this we'll continue with the color real quick. I'll just show you an example of what I mean by being similar but not the same. So this particular build has the building at the shoulder is almost exactly to this one, as you can see, right? And so is the arm, the arm and the connection of the elbow. But it has an important change, right? Here, instead of going with a single ball joint, as I did with this, it has a ratcheted part here, and it goes to a single 2x1 ratchet plate. And I just built around that. The hand is similar build, but this part itself changed. So that's what I mean, where you can start building a mech with a single frame, but depending on your needs, on your piece availability, you could do small changes here and there to get the results you want. Other change that this build has with this one right away is the hip, because this is connected with a small 2x1 small ball joint, and I use a tire to cover the connection and give it a bit more friction. It's not super legal, it's not the best, but does kind of work. Okay, so you can consider that building technique, and that's one of the difference between this and this. It works with this mech because the leg itself is pretty thin, and it doesn't. And we might end up having something very similar on this mech to this one, regarding the build of the leg. But it's something to reflect on. Like, you can end up with similar builds that are not exact. You can end up changing how they work depending on what you need from them. Okay. By the way, hi Sato. I didn't see you before. Sorry if I didn't say hi before. So now we have that, and let's start building a bit of color to the build itself. So I want to start with a lighter pink and then go to a dark. You usually would go from a darker to a lighter, right? But I want to go the opposite. So for that, perhaps let me try and go with a lighter pink here on the connection, and then go further with perhaps this pink. I'm thinking which one would go well with that. The main difference between this Joker and the other Joker that I built before is that I want to make this work with a gradient of color. The other one had a single color, so if it had blue, it had a single blue, and if it had pink, it had a single pink. So I'll try to build a gradient of color on this one. That will be the main difference between both. So let me try this. It is built forward or upward, and usually I would like to have this shape. So it is similar, but it's not the same. And there are many ways we can try to build around that, depending on the piece that you have, right? So we can try this, a single plate 4x2, or perhaps, as you can see, I'm using a slope, a 3x1 slope, and perhaps they could have the shape. The other thing is, well, how about we do this, okay? Let me take this pink piece apart. Well, let's use it for now, but I like to use this piece as a knee pad for many reasons. But the main reason I like to use it is because this is a 3x2 sloped. I don't know exactly how to call this piece, but it has a protuberance here at the end. The good part is it goes from 2 to 1, right, in the length of the width of the piece. So it works perfectly as a knee for that, because I can change from this, going from this 2 build to a single build, and it will do that for me. And you can use that as a base, and perhaps build the pink going from that, right? So that could be a way to do that. The other thing is this knee for the smaller build that we try to go might not even work. So we might change that entirely. It's something that I'm not too fond of doing, but we can do and probably will end up doing, because as I'm seeing right now, it would take me tons of work to give color to this build with the current build. And I'll probably show you another build I can do, and let me take away a leg for this. I'm going to keep one build in case I have to go back. And this is one of the many things that happens when building a mech. You might have an entire leg build, but once you start building, it's perhaps not the best shape you want for that. So take that in consideration. So let's try to keep what I like from this, which is the bottom leg of the cow. And this is the problem part, the knee part, articulation. What I keep do, or what I usually do in other builds, I do an articulation using ratchet parts. So for example, if I do this is a connection of 2x1 ratcheted parts, a male and a female part. And if I do, let me see if I have that. Let me try to use this one as a reference. If I do this and use this entire piece as a knee, you can see it is closer to this, and it also gives me the option to cover more color with it. And I can even, for example, instead of using this plate, use a color one, a 3x2 color piece. And for this part, we can start building upwards with color, right? Why I keep these two pins open? Usually because those pieces, I'll end up using those pieces to work the connection with the lower piece to the cap. So do leave yourself open to having that, right? And which are the best ways to do that? You could use perhaps a single 2x1 plate. The advantage of these plates are that since they don't have any pins at the back, and this is a single pin with a clear plate at the bottom, you can put this here and you can slide it, and it will reach the top of the piece, or the piece that's at the top, just where you want it to go. So you could do that and perhaps keep building this way, and then you could start giving the shape. But the problem is that the shape that you want to give to that knee? This is a bit of the entire process, or the complicated part of the process, because you have to think about which pieces you have. Another option is going with a single 2x1, single plated at the top, and from there you could build an upwards, or do an upwards build. And here's where you can play around with the pieces that you have. For example, here at the top, you could use a single 2x2 with a single plate. It's not going to work this way, and it's interesting why. Because if it was an entire a straight piece like this one, it would work. It would connect, because it would use a space for a connection, but it would use a pin for another connection, right? Perhaps you can see it here. But for this piece, it doesn't work because at the back it is an entire hole. It doesn't have a pin. So unless it could work backwards this way, but the way I want to use it, it will not work. So I could either replace or change the order of things, and it would work, or just don't do that at all. But with this, we're starting to give shape to the leg. Now comes a problem. Do you see the main problem here? If I want to do this connection, it would be a side connection, and these are in opposite sides. So how do I connect this, right? It looks complicated, and it might be a bit complicated, but you can play around this in many ways. Let me try to think how I can solve this, because I've done this before. Just I don't remember how I did that. Right now, I could try to, and here's an option. If I build, for example, a side mount with this and just put it here and attach it, it would only ever reach an attachment from one side, and it's not the same as if I had it here. Why? Because once you put the plate, this plate has a length, and this length is not included. If for example, if I was to use a side plate like this. For example, if I was going to use this and put it here at the back, this one would fit completely with this. But now you have a problem that it overlaps a bit. So it will only attach again from this side. It could work, but the problem with having attachment with a single side is that it's flimsy. As soon as you try to move the leg a bit inwards, the plate might separate completely. So that's why it's not as simple as that to fix this problem. And this is what I'm trying to. I've solved it before. I just don't remember how I did that exactly. Okay, I think the mesh I've built has that solved. Let me try to figure out. You can always use your old builds as reference for if you want to know how to fix a problem. So it does have. No, it has this one has the knee that we're working with right now. You can see. So that was solved in a different build, in a different way. So that's a no-go. Other way, the fastest way I can figure or I can think of fixing that involves ball joints, and that's one of the reasons why I love that connection more than anything, because it's the most versatile way of building you ever find. Okay, so if we do this, I'll show you exactly how we can go and build a knee using that. If we go and put, let me put a 3x2, sorry, let me take that away. If we put this, the ball joint here, we can actually turn this, and then we have a functional knee, or at least a semi-functional knee. And if we do this, we have an even bigger range of a knee, right? The problem is again friction, so you will have a knee that will have lower friction. Again, compromises. You're always trying to see if the compromise is worth it, right? But the advantage of this is that you can put this on a single plate and you can build around it to attach it from both sides. So you'll be able to attach it from this side, and if you put another 2x2 plate at the top, again, I'm going to probably be using a different color just to show the purpose of what I'm saying. And I know I had a 2x2 somewhere around here. And I lost it. Oh, I have a pink one. I'll use the pink one to show you that. So if you put this, you're basically completing the 3 plate needed to complete a block. And with that, you can attach it to the top. And now you have a very firm connection. The only problem is the flimsiness of the ball joint as a knee piece. But let me show you why I think this in itself works better with the type of mech I'm building. Since I'm building a thin mech, having this entirely neck piece built with plates, I can give more color immediately just by start building from it. And if I were to use this, I have to build around it in order to give it color. So again, for bigger mechs like Nesha, where you can give yourself the luxury to build around the knees, like this, you can use plates or different type of builds to cover the pieces, the neck, the piece around it successfully. Or you can try to do that. So right now I'm going to keep both pieces built in different ways, or both legs in a different way, because one of the things that I'm trying to achieve is see which one works better for the current build. And that's a bit of what makes this a bit complicated, because you have to go backwards 2 steps, go forward 2 steps, perhaps get back 1, rethink, and build again from that. But if you are not entirely convinced by the idea, having 2 legs and 2 arms is a perfect way to do that. You can just keep one as you had before and try new things with the other one. And if you don't like what you did, you can just go back and roll back to the one you have built and use this as a reference. So that's an idea to keep around. Oh, I think I keep the camera again. Keep doing that. Sorry about that. Okay, so by having this, I think might work better, because we could probably give the better shape that we want. Let me just put the music, because I think it's stopped. Okay. So let's think back a bit more and see. Having this particular build, it's still workable in many ways, because you can still use these plates here and build around it and still have plates at the top just like this. It's just, the thing is, you just build the connections out of plates and ball joints. You will have to eventually add some type of cover for this part, but it still works. You still have connection and a knee that bends backwards. But with a ball joint this size, the problem comes with it doesn't have enough friction. You can add restricting pieces that create friction for you after. You can use, for example, this back part. If you build it around it, this is a quick example. It doesn't mean that you will end up with this. But if you do this, for example, if you put another clip at the top and you add a friction here, you just added a stop. So the knee itself will move from this position ever, because you created a stopper part, which if you move in one way or another, that's when you allow the knee to move, right? So this is why I always like to have a way to create a stop at the back, because you can create stops on multiple legs with this, or just put a single stop and puts the leg at the position you want to for it without it moving. So that's something to consider. So for now, I think we might end up going with this design of the leg with the stopper instead of this one. But it could all change, and I'll show you why once we start building color and the shape of the leg. Since the leg is the more complicated part of the build to get the shape, as far as I can see, the arms are simple. This arm is starting to look like the one we designed. We just have to add the colors and plating. So I don't think this arm being complicated. But giving the shape that we want with the color knee that's going forward a bit and then going backwards, this build is going to take us a bit of a time, especially since we're going to use color on this part. And usually weird colors like this pink are hard to come by. Want to know one of the main sources for this type of color pieces for me are the friend line of Lego. I bought tons of those sets just for the color pieces, and hence sometimes I end up with tons of mini dolls that I never use. But being a color freak as I am, I end up buying tons of those sets just for the color pieces. So I found another 2x1 block with some color here, and this could end up working perfectly. So far we don't have that much of a gradient in color, but that's fixable in a sort of way, because having plates there in that position allows us for us to play with precisely that, right? So if I get, for example, this pink, I have a 3x1 pink. Either I find a 3x2 or another 3x1, and I can put it at the back of that. Let me show you real quick what I mean by that. So if I put, perhaps let me put a single 2x1 here in the middle, and if I found another 3x1 or 2x3, then the leg starts to have like a gradient color that we can build it and see it build that way. And the other thing is, I'm not entirely sure that this has the shape I want for the knee, because I probably want a fuller knee. And if I want a fuller knee, perhaps I don't go with a single stud in the middle. Perhaps I go with this, which would give it more shape. And if I put a plate on it, I see, and it does not look good. Well, for me, at least, it doesn't look good. So let's take this out. And let's see what I can do about it. Because this is usually the more complicated part of building, which is getting a shape you want with the colors you have an idea, and being able to build something with the colors you have. Again, on these colors, these are the pieces I have. I don't think, I do have a bit more pink, little pink, to build on. But I think that's it. I don't have many of those color pieces, but I do have some that could help me build things I want. For example, this side piece in pink could be pretty useful. The problem is, I know for sure I don't have this piece in blue. So building one leg similar to the other without knowing that you don't have that automatically leaves this piece out. But I know I have slopes, right? So what I could do is perhaps start with a single slope, 2x1, here. Yes, I try to keep gradients of or the most amount of color pieces I can find, and this allows me to work with color pretty well. So let me try a single pink here. Could work, but no, it won't. And here could come the first compromise of the entire build. So if I go with this part, which I know for certain would work and gives the shape that I want, I could stop perhaps moving the pink to be in an upper part, and perhaps you move the pink a bit up, or perhaps you can start building with this pink and the plate, and from that you may try. Again, this is a ton of trial and error while you build, which is not necessarily the most optimal way of building, but it's the way of building with the pieces you have. Okay, so if I put this simulating the black spot, then we have this entire thing to work around. And we could we could go either I know I have slugs with tank. I'm sure of that. The problem is I'm not sure I have them here. Or with the old Joker, I have them. Okay, so let me try doing this. So if I put a 2x1 plate here, then let me try with let me try with this shape, which is a 2x1 block with a slope. And if I put here, then I create a shape that I like. It's similar to the one in the drawing, not necessarily the colors, but I know I have a plate with this colors, but I don't know if I have them on the back or at home. I do remember, sorry for the bringing out the back, I didn't plan to do this, but I think the pieces of the color that I want might be here. So I might end up having to take some pieces. Okay, so I know for sure I do. So I have, yes, correct. Sometimes you have to build with the pieces you have, but that doesn't restrict and meaning that you can not give it a better shape or a better color gradation. The thing is, build first the idea you want and try to build around and modifying with the colors that you have and the pieces you have. So for example, I use this pink here, which I know for sure I can change with these plates here. And I'm seeing if I have a 2x1 block of this pink, because I want to incorporate this pink in a way or another, but perhaps I might not do it here, and I might end up doing it perhaps here, because if I put a single 4x2 plate here of this pink, and I put black here, I could start working with a gradient that starts from dark to lighter pink this way, correct? So if I do this, let me try and see if I can have enough pieces of that. So I have a slope, a 2x1 slope, this color, I have 2. And I think I could use that. Definitely, no, I can use that. So how can I use that? That's the interesting part. As far as I can see, if I do this, if I put it inside, it will continue with the knee. So one of the best ways I could use that is perhaps, I know I don't have this in blue, so I will not use it. Again, think of the limitation. If you want to do it on both legs the same way, keeping the same shape, you have to consider if you have that piece in another color. And most of the times, you know which pieces you have, right? So I'm thinking perhaps if I use this in gray, or perhaps in black. Let me use it in black. So let me try with this piece in black. I know I have multiple of these pieces in black. So it's basically a 2x2 with a side mount integrated to the build, right? And if I put this here, it allows me to do this. Which means that if I take out, let me take this piece out. If I take this pink out, now I have a build that is starting to degrade and having the shape of the color that I want, right? So I can go around and perhaps put a piece of this color here. I'm not sure I'm end up using that, but I just want to build something around it. And perhaps put this. And I could end up with a softer pink on the top, right? That could be a possibility. So let me figure out if I use a 2x1. Perhaps that's not even correct here. Sorry, I'm making a mess in pieces. I know I'll fix it up later. So if I put this, I know I'm creating a gradient in pinks right away. So I just have to make a way of fixing this that looks great. And I might have to go with another darker piece at the bottom. That's a problem with pieces. Sometimes they get stuck in the box, and I cannot take them out, especially when they contain bigger pieces. Okay, so black box, this has a 3x2. I could use that as a test, or a 4x2. Okay, this works. So if I put up, let's try with a 4x2 black piece here. That continues the color to this 2x2. Now it has a shape that I like, right? And I know for sure that I had 2 of this. So if I do this, now it is starting to have a shape similar to the one I want. It's not exact, but it has a shape relative to the one I want. Okay, and for this pink at the top, I could end up going with another of this, right? So it is a gradient of color, just like I wanted originally, but what I'm trying to see if it will end up working like I wanted to. So going this way, let me keep building in a matter of that it shows me something I want. So if I find a 2x1 plate or something similar to that, I can probably keep building. And as long as you have pieces that you can replicate on the other leg, you can try many things later on. But again, because I would love to use this piece, which I know would work perfectly. But as I want to replicate, I know for sure I don't have this one in blue, so I would not be able to replicate that on the other leg. So I'm building around that. If I put this in a way here, this could probably give me the shape or a shape I like. So I could go with if I go with 2x2 plates of black and put it here, I could definitely try this. And now it has a look. It doesn't look perfect because I don't like this shape here, but it's starting to have the shape I want, right? Look at it. It's not exact, it's not the same, but it's the first attempt to get the colors that we want. Other thing that comes to mind, and perhaps it's how we're going to fix this, might be a bit tricky, right? But that's the interesting part of all of this. So if I do this, I might get a better shape, and perhaps you can start working with plates instead of building. Right? I'm trying to find the clips. Okay, here they are. So if I take out this piece and put a double 2x1 clip and put 2 plates here at the top. Yes, I do actually. I do have gradients of blue, right? So I will have to replicate what I'm doing with the gradients of pink with the gradients of blue. it's what it's gonna become. So you have to know which pieces you have. So if we do this, basically you can perhaps build the shape you want and have this part in black and just build this part in pink, right? And if we use this slopes that we were using before, but this time we put on the side, we might end up with the look that we want, correct? So let me try this. Okay, so let me go back to this. And if I put this here, this slope, I know for sure that it will string this plate and perhaps give the shape I want, right? So it has the gradient I want. The shape is similar to the one I want. Might not be the exact same, but we could work around that. It's not, it doesn't seem impossible. And if we build, I'm thinking here. Sorry if I go a bit silent while I wait, while I think. This part of the building usually requires tons of experimentation, right? Like trying to get the shape you want and perhaps using the piece that you want. For example, if I replace this 3x2 with the pink 2x2 here, it might fit better at the knee. It goes upper a bit more. It could work. But I'm thinking I could do better. And how could I do better? Perhaps I put a 3x2 at the front. This could allow me to do this, right? And perhaps this is another way of adding the gradient that you want. For example, this other thing. So we could be building the plating around this. Sorry, it's a bit chaos, I know. But if we build this here, and we put this here, we'll see that we're starting to give the shape similar to the one we want. And we might have room to wiggle it, right? So we might be able to do this. And once we're starting to get the shape we want, right? It's not necessarily the same shape that's on the drawing, but again, you have to know the limitations of the pieces that you have and what's available, right? And I'm thinking that if I want to change this in a different perspective and do something different, I might do this, and I'll show you real quick what I plan to do, right? So if I do this and put the light pink at the bottom, which could work, and I have to take this 3x2 because it clashes with the upper leg. So just build this way. Now it has a sloping, so it's not right straight, but it has a sloping quality that I could like. So if I do that, that gives me an idea of how to continue, right? Because I might not have the 2x1 slopes that uses at the top, but I know for sure that on the dark pink, I have the two slopes in 1x1. And as long as I have enough, which should be 4, I could replicate the look of 2. And could even do different shapes. And I'll show you that real quick. So, let's try this. So, if we go this, again, 2 by 1 with the cheese slopes in the dark pink. And then we attach them here. We could use another one here and do the cheese slope as well here. And now we have a slope that kind of works like the one that we have. And we could even go further, and you see that it has a gradient here. You could go even further and try to put the same gradient at the top. So it goes gradient and then gradient back, right? It could be a solution to this. And for the top, we could build a way of having this covered. Again, this is not the best example of piece, but for what I want to show or what I want to try, I think I have another one here. And if you check the side, you see that it kind of works. And that's what I'm thinking, what else can I change, what else can I add? And I could work at that part in black, actually. If I keep that in black, it will allow me to get better pieces. So but the shape itself of the leg is not bad, right? This piece I could change from pink to white or golden or black to keep with the pattern. Right now I'm thinking of this, right? Thinking if this works. And perhaps I'll continue building with this pink. See what else can I do with it. And I'm thinking that if I use a 2 by 1 round plate, that's backwards here, it would attach here, it will clash no further here, and it will allow me to build a bit of an upper slope here. I'll show you that real quick. So if I do this, I can build a slope that goes here and perhaps get the shape I want. And right now, we're starting to get the shape we want with the knee, right? So the leg itself is starting to get the shape that we want, as similar to the drawing as we can, with the gradient that we want to build. So for me, this seems like a win for now. What do you think? It's starting to get the shape that we want. Again, these colors here might end up changing, but what we want to have the color was the knee protection part, which has the color that we want, has it in a gradient that I like. So it starts with the white and starts going with the light pink, medium pink, and dark pink. I'm thinking it could work. What we could also do to further down the color gradient, again, I don't have a 2 by 2 plate. I know that for sure. Of the medium pink, right? 1 second. But I do have 2 plates of the medium pink. And again, what I could do is, instead of using perhaps this 3 by 2 here, I take it down real quick and I put them this way. I could start building in a different way of the gradient, because I could use this and put this slope, this 2 by 1. in a different shape or side. And with this, what we're achieving is we're getting a different kind of gradient, right? So this gradient now goes from, it doesn't go full way, but it still shows this, and we can end up going with a darker pink here. So the gradient is different. So we'd end up with a different shape, and perhaps this looks better than it did before, or for me, it looks a bit better. We could also, and here's the fun part, once you start building, you'll get more ideas. You build, you take down, you build again, you take down again. So, with that, we could do a small change, because we're using 2x1 plates that extend two further, right? Two of those. But if I find one black plate or golden plate that works here, and I'll show you this idea, I hope you like it. So we replace this mechanism here, this entire piece, with this. This gives us more room to work on, and we keep the golden that's on the drawing on the inside part of the meat. So it ends up working in two different parts. So what we want to do is, as another change here, we'll continue with the 2x1s put on the side, and then we build them this way. And put it this way. Now we have an entirely different theme that we can work on, because we can put here another dark pen.
Listen to my story. This may be our last chance.
And with this, we just gain a different type of gradient with the pieces. So, and it's starting to look better, in my opinion, and similar to the ones that we have, right? So let me do this a bit. So I'm going to need a 2x4. Okay. Right now, let me put this 3x2 here at the bottom. Just that it has a black color, sorry. And with this, we're given the opportunity to have this color gradient at the knee part, and works kind of great. We have the break at the end that we can decorate with golden at the end, which could work better. And let me give you an example of that. So let me just put back some of the colors to their respective box, because if we don't do that, it's going to be a mess after, right? And I don't know if you have faced a messy table before, but those are a pain to work on, because you don't get the piece that you want in the correct amount of time. Okay, so we have made and returned some pieces to the correct color. Let me take some of the boxes to the back. Because for now, what we want to do doesn't involve pink, it involves golden, right? So let's go back to golden. Oh, no, don't go back, let's start going with golden. So, what do we have to give the pieces the shape and color that we want? So, if I find 4 of this, I don't remember if I have 4 of this, these are great, because if you put them here, then you can actually give cover to the side, and it looks great, right? But I have to find 4, because I have to be able to replicate this on the other leg. So having 4 of those would help me tons in creating the shape that I want. This is another piece I wanted, because this could go on the break here, and then we're starting to give the golden coating or coating to the back of the leg. So right now, as it is, this is how the brake would look like, which could not entirely work as I wanted it. And perhaps we can change that from using a 2x1 clip to using a 1x1 clip. We might have to go that route. And I'll show you what I need. Okay, I'm going to use that yellow piece just because it was the first one I found. And the brake itself could end up looking like this. Right now, I'm not entirely happy with that, but I know I'll find a solution for it. Or perhaps just keep that 2x1 and if I don't use that, I perhaps could work on that. Or if I invert it, it's going to clash this way, but I could use a different piece here in the back to make it work. Okay, so let's not go that much into that. Again, I'm working on one leg because I know if I get a look I like on a leg, and this one is getting a look I like, I can probably easily replicate that on a different leg. So let me put another gold piece here at the back. It's starting to look a bit like the picture. Other pieces that I like to use a lot, that I know I have tons of, and are good to cover pins, are the ninja stars. So I know I have ninja stars, tons of them, right? These golden ninja stars that come on the Ninjago brake. And this could work great here to cover this. So now we have a cover that's starting to look golden at the back. And what we could do is, I'm not going to probably end up replacing this pink with white. But what we could end up having here is a brake that works. So now we're starting to build the brake that the back part of the knee that's in golden, right? Just like a drawing we made. And with this, you're sure that the leg will not move that much backwards. Remain that way, even if it's using a ball joint. And if you want to move it further, you can just do this and it will move, right? So I still have to work a bit on it, but I'm starting to like the shapes that I'm getting out of it. So that's good. So the key part, or the key thing is, I know I have another 2 stars, so, and another part of this. So I know if I start to working on the other side, I know I have this, and I have the golden parts covered. I could use this golden slopes with rates here at the back, this way. And it could work here. Let me try and see if it works. At the brake part, and it covers more, right? So it looks a bit better because it shows the golden part and covers more golden. So we have a brake that effectively looks better, right? It actually works a bit better than I thought, because it works as a limb. It can allows it to bend and it still moves a bit. So it works a brake and as a decoration, right? All other possibilities that we could use to cover instead of using ninja stars is, I don't know if you have this, the golden arms. You could use them here, and it could work as a charm as well. Because basically, you can move them, and they will also work as a break in a sort of way, right? So I could keep that as a possibility. That's not unheard of and not an entirely negative. So my worries with this, would I have enough of this golden teeth? Because I need to find 4, right? So far I have 2. 2 is great in a different way, because with 2 you could do wonders in the fact that you could perhaps put them on the leg, just not in the exact same spot. And I'll show you what I mean. Because for sure, I know for sure I have 2 white teeth, and I have 2 golden teeth. What does this mean is, I could go with 1 golden on this side and 1 white on this side. And if I replicate the same in the opposite on the other leg, then that would mean that on the inside of the leg I would have a white cover, on the outside of the leg I would have a golden cover. So, compromises, right? If you don't have enough, but you have a pair, you can do things around that. So I'm starting to have the leg built, and it has a shape that I could very well be happy with. So let me take it apart a bit, because I know I have a 2x1 white plate here that I can put here and would immediately look better. So as you can see, the music stopped. 1 second. Yes, I don't know why it stops. Sometimes it does. Okay. So now we have a leg that looks the part. And another thing I could do, and it's another thing I like doing, is if you have this teeth, right? It's a 1x1 block teeth. If you have, I can have them in white, right? But I try to find this in white later, but I want to show you what it does. So it does great with keeping the shape, right? So that could work there, but could also work on that leg is a simple white slope. The thing is, it's a bit rough. Another thing that could work here is just a simple white 1x1 plate that, since it doesn't have anything around it, you can turn around perhaps and give it more of a diamond shape, and that could end up working great as the end shape, or as we work on the end shape, right? So far, this is how the leg is starting to look, right? It's starting to get the shape that we want. This song belongs to Persona 5 soundtrack. Sorry for the break, but I just wanted to point it out, and it's one of the most relaxing songs you can use to. I usually put it sometimes to sleep, and it works like a charm. So by doing this, we're going to see if it works, if it actually looks or is starting to look like the leg that we have, or the leg that we want. And for me, it's starting to have a shape similar to the one we have. Of course, here we still have to build the side, so it's going to be look a bit thicker at the side. So don't take it as it is right now. So we're starting to build here. Now I'll show you one of the things I like doing, right? I like doing this, putting at the top of the side hinges. and I'll show you real quick why. This is just to demonstrate a bit of shaping, right? So it's starting to have the shape that we want. And if we do that, I'll show you with a single, I have a 2x1 clip, dual clip here, and we attach it to that hinge. And what it does, we're starting to cover the ball joint on the side. So we're going to be able to give it a nice shape. And we're starting to get the leg shape that we want. And see the difference from that leg to this leg, right? Let me take it out and show you real quick, one next to the other. So this build here allowed us to do this. And we could try to replicate this particular build with this, and it might work. And I'll show you why. Surprisingly, it could work. But it will have a side problem that might end up not working for us in the long run. So, real quick. So in theory, if I put this here, we could, in theory, build all the same things here. But I don't know if you notice, this knee is more bent than this one. This one is longer, and it has a less curved shape. This one has a big curve here. If you follow here, the curve is here. So for this particular one, we might not do that unless we try this, which could be another solution, actually. So if we put two blocks, two plates here, and we build it this way, let me put a single 2x1, no, sorry, 2x2 plate, and I'll show you. I think I will show you what I want. I'll use the paint because I know I have paint with it. So this, in theory, could work. But I don't think it will work as we wanted to, because it doesn't close completely. As you can see, it has a small gap, so it's forced. So it might not work as we wanted to. But this is something else that you could do. If you wanted to try with a different build, just extend the location of that, and it could work in theory. But honestly, I want to try to just do what I did to that again on this side, right? And for that, we'll start with the blues. I probably have enough time to do another leg. So let's start with that. I know I have tons of these blue slots here. And let me put it this way. Sorry, I'm building off camera. Force a habit. I still have to get used to building on camera. So, taking it apart. Okay, same leg as I showed you on the other one. And again, I'm going to need a blue one, which I could end up keeping this way, because as you can see, this one has a middle pink, this has a middle blue, and I could end up using that on either legs and keep the shape I want. So put this plate here, and same white 2x2 white back paint. And now all we have to do is work on replicating this, what we did here on the other leg, right? So I have to find 2x1 slopes, at least 4. Sorry, at least 2 of each color. Or if I don't, 4 of the smaller ones, right? And I know I'm going to use 2x2 plates. So that could end up working great. So if you find them, use them. Okay, so again, just to demonstrate and due to this process, I'll end up just, if I don't find 2x1s, I'll get the 1x1s I need, okay? But I know for sure that for the lower ones, I'm going to need 2x1s, because those are the connections. I think I might end up using the clear ones. I don't know if I should have. So I know I have 2x1s. Sorry, 1x1s. Which could be a problem if I don't find 2x1s. Because I might have to end up doing modifications to the other need to be able to complete it in a similar way. Okay? So I know I have 4. Not ideal, but that's something I can do. And let's see which one. Okay, this way could work. This shading. Okay, so if I use this shading, I have to find them in this blue, the 2x1. The good thing is, I know for sure I have more of this blue. So even if they're not precisely on this box, I might have another box to check. That's good. I see 1x1s, but not 2x1s. Okay, let me bring the big box. One second, I'm just going. Okay. Let me take this out. And I know I have a bigger box of this blue. Like I said, this could be a good thing. But I'm still not sure, honestly, that I have 2x1s of the slope, which could end up being a problem. Because that means I might have to modify a bit, not that much, because all it would mean would be just adding a 2x2 plate beneath this, and that could work. But I'm just making sure and see if I have those blue slopes in 2x1. Okay. For now, let's work on the assumptions that I don't have them, because honestly, I don't see them. So let's try to work on getting a plate. And enough to 1x1 slopes, cheese slopes, to fill that. Okay, so I would need 4. With 4 cheese slopes, I could do the work of that. Okay, so I have them. The 4. And let's work with this as the base, right? So we put the 4 cheese loops in a 2x2 slope, and let's work with that as the base for that. And again, I'm going to start with the golden hinge, and I'm going to need 2x1 black clip, like this one. Yeah, this is the base of the knee connection. And next, this blue. So for this blue, we're going to use this one. So I need a 2 by 1 here. So this could be another problem because again, this one has 2 by 1. So I have to. So the solution for that, honestly, it's simple. If you don't have that entire slopes in the same shape, just build with what you have. And what do I have, or what do I know that I have, is plates. So if I have cheese slopes, build with that, and then we might have to rebuild the pink one to be bigger or be longer. So, but still, let's finish with the blue one, and once we figure out exactly what we have, that's when we'll know for sure what we have or what we can build. So since we extended everything, we're probably going to need to extend this one as well. So this is almost like the same build in blue, but only longer than the other side. So this is the difference, right? I don't have the black slopes. I could put one here at the bottom just to show you how it works. So as you can see, it still works. It's still showing, but now we have to make it to go a bit further than this one because we didn't have the 1 by 2. We have the slopes, the single slopes. Which, if I find those slopes in those colors, I might go back if I find them, but I don't think I'll find them. If I look with more patience, I might, but I'm not sure honestly. So the solution for that is just replicate what you already have on the side. So let's replicate that on the pink side. So first, add the extension of the pink, the light pink. And we'll work around getting the same extension for the other pinks, right? And pray that you have enough pieces to do that as well. Again, this is when you have limited amount of pieces. This is almost always is trial and error. Okay, so don't be you always have to work with what you have and work around it. That's usually what I try to do. Doing this, I actually like the way that it doesn't go over the top with this. So going back to this side, what I might just do is I know I should use a Lego separator. I forgot mine. Usually that's why I end up breaking my nails tons of times. It's a problem, I know. It's not a huge problem. At least it hasn't been a huge problem yet. So back to, no, this is not the blue that I need, a single 2 by 1. I need a 2 by 1 of the lighter blue. Of this blue. And I know I have a 2 by 1, that blue, to go here. And now, in theory, we have the gradients on both sides, right? 2 blue gradients. From what I'm seeing, I might change this blue to go this way, and since it looks like the better combinations of blues, again, with color, you usually work with what you have, but you can try to make small changes if you know you have the pieces, right? it's all about trial and error most of the times. And like I said, I know I have more of these blue pieces. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to change the color of this. So you go this way. What's the way? This is the way. This is the way. If I do this, and duplicate this, that's not how it goes. It goes this way. So we have a gradient of blues. I think it works the other way around as well. I think I might have to think around a bit with the blues, right? But nevertheless, we can do that later. Because right now I want to test and see how the legs look, right? So with this, we basically have the shape and the main color needs of the build that we want, right? So we're starting and we made a good change or a good step in the right direction. We still have tons to build. Probably the bottom legs will be, again, the last thing we'll build. I will still have to replicate and build a fully cover for both sides. But I have a good idea of what I want to do with that. So I don't see that as a problem. It's just a matter of working with well, it's time that will work. So it's not that huge of a deal. So right now, it's starting to look the shape and color that we want. It's starting to get that. It's just a matter of finding pieces to cover it and replicate again the black color on this side. And even if that's or perhaps we can find even better pieces for that, which I think I have an idea for pieces that we want there as well. So no big of a problem. We still have to finish the legs and the brakes on this side. But as far as I know, or as far as it coming along, look at it. Compared to the drawing, of course it's on the opposite side. On this camera I have a flip. But it's starting to get the shape. What do you think? Honestly, for me, let me just turn that around. Perhaps you can see it better on different sides, the color on different sides. Like this, right? It's starting to have the shape that we want. So at least we're working on the knee and the initial gradient of colors that we want for it. And it's starting to take shape with the white and the golden at the back, like this. So it's all about the legs. We advance a lot, I think. We might change a few bits about it, but I think that we have a good start with it. Right? You might even do some changes on here if you want to do some tricks and tips later. But I'll try to find some pieces and then I'll try to show how I can change this. But I think it's starting to take shape, the shape that we want. And for today, I think it's enough. The main problem is, or the main reason why I cannot make longer streams is that I still have to move from here to my house. It's not far, but it's a travel, and I don't want to do that too late in the night. So I think that's it for today. What do you think? Let me know. Real quick, like I said at the beginning, I'd like to do or give some structure to the stream. So we started with announcements and how things change. And I want to add a part at the end, which is questions, Q&A. So if you have any question, how about now? Or if you just want to cut it and we'll continue on the next session, that's great as well. So what do you say? I'm going to give you 2 minutes while I speak. So if you have any questions, type them and and I can discuss that. If not, what I can say is thank you very much for joining me. It might not look like we advanced a lot, but we did, because figuring out colors and shapes usually is one of the more complicated parts. And I'm still not convinced, especially on this gradient. This gradient doesn't look great to me. So I might go back on it and try to see if I find different pieces of color that go better. Or perhaps not different colors, but different positions of colors, right? That give a better combination. For example, I just made a quick change here. And this gradient does look a bit better than the one that I had before. And this one is the one I might keep, right? So, yeah. Any questions? You're fine? What did you thought about it? Did you enjoy the stream? I hope you did. I honestly did, because I enjoyed this mess of a stream that I'm making. I know I still build perhaps a bit of camera. I have to remember to build gear. It's something it's going to take a bit of time getting used to. But I mean, it might not look like much, but given this shape or working on this shape, we basically rework the entire leg and start working with the pieces that I have, working on a gradient of color that looks it's what I had in mind. Not exactly, but it's a good compromise with what I had in mind. Yes, working with colors, especially with gradients, will take you more than you think. Because getting gradient right involves getting builds that you might have to replicate with different. Right now, these are 6 colors, right? So you have to consider building with colors, ingredients, and with having enough pieces to replicate a build in 6 different colors. So it does take a while, especially if you're using red colors. And what do I mean by red colors? These shades of blue and pink are still rare, or relatively rare, because you mostly find them on friends' sets. But for example, if we were to use, I don't know, yellows and oranges and red, right? This is an example. This is a basic gradient. These colors are simple because you can find them almost everywhere, on almost tons of sets. So this basic gradient is simple. You can work with it, and you'll probably have tons of pieces of those colors. But on this type of colors, like these shades, you won't find many pieces of these shades, right? So you have to work around it. And sometimes you make compromises because the amount of pieces available are not many. But hey, we work with what we have. And again, like I said at the beginning of the stream, I'm going to try to do more instructions and perhaps sell some of my builds to be able to afford more pieces to work with you. So stay tuned on my social networks. You might see news about me selling instructions more often. And again, I know this might be complicated because this is not a necessarily cheap hobby. But I do want to be able to find a way to give you something in order to get something back. So in order to finance some of this or the growth of this channel, if you like it, if more people like it, I'll give something back. I'm not just gonna, I want to give something back. So expect more instructions, expect for me perhaps selling 1 or 2 bills to finance this. And I'm more than happy with that compromise. Just stay tuned to my social networks and we'll probably see more news about it, okay? So with that, let's end this stream. Thank you very much for joining me today. Next stream, we'll complete the legs or at least the cover of the top legs, and do the same break that I did here, and perhaps finish the golden details on the other side of the leg. And we'll move to the cot, the central piece, and perhaps the chest, and start working on the shoulders. I'm thinking I might be going, or maybe too ambitious, but that's the idea. So basically we'll work on finishing this. I'll have the pieces to finish this relatively quick, and we'll start working on the core and the shoulders, right? The next session after that, it's probably going to be the arms, and I don't know if we'll probably do the first arm cover, then the head, and then the legs, the feet. That's in my head the order that we're going to be. It's going to be probably the next 3 sessions or something around that. So I do hope that you come by, and again, start on my head, start to take shape, and we'll continue working on this on stream. Only on stream. I won't build anything. I'll get pieces outside of the streams to work on, but I won't build anything. Everything you will see, you'll build. The entire build will be done on stream. That's for sure. So I do hope that you have a good night or a good morning, depending on the time or the place where you live. And I'll see you on Saturday. Okay? Saturday, same time, we'll work on finishing the legs and the rest. Okay? So again, have a great time. I had a great time with this, and see you next. Bye.